All right. Hey guys, let me just do a little refresh over here, see if I've got everything up and running and if the picture is decent. Ooh, first time. All right. Let me pull this up. Make it large here. Pause it so I don't hear the feedback there. There we go. Hi, good evening. Happy Sunday night. This is Tara with Tarabeth Stamps. I'm an Independent Stampin' Up Demonstrator here in Mid-Missouri. If you're on, give me a shout. Let me know that you're here. Hey, Karen. Hey, Mary. Thanks for joining me. Oh, what just happened? Oh, there we go. So tonight I'm going to do a pop-up card. We are going to use a couple of different products. Not a couple. We're going to use a lot of different products. So this is going to be for that avid stamper that has a ton of supplies. Hey, Susan. Hey, Angie. Thanks for joining. Hey, Karen. First of all, I want to remind you we are halfway through Celebration. So Celebration is that great sales time where you can, hey, Mary, thanks for joining, where you can buy $50 to $100 worth of merchandise and get that free Stampin' Up product. So there's a ton of stuff in the Celebration catalog, and this week they announced they're gonna add to it and added a ton of items. You can see those items on my website. If you go to www.tarabethstamps.blogspot.com, that's where you'll find my stuff. Hey, Carol, thanks for joining. That's where you'll find all of the good stuff. There's also a new bundle coming out. I was supposed to have it today, but apparently there was snow and ice in Utah, and it sat in Utah until Friday. But we won't talk about that. So watch this week on my blog for sneak peeks of that product that's going to be available later on next month, unless, of course, you can't resist and you have to have it today. Give me a shout out and we'll get you signed up for, oh, Mary, I'm sorry. I'm sure you were probably as pleased as I was. But give me a shout out. There's an easy way to grab that stuff early, and I'd love to talk to you about it. So let's get back to today's card. So like I said, we're using the Light the Way stamp set. We are using stitched rectangles. We are using Famous Frames dies. We are using Light the Way, and we are using Seaside Bay. And if you guys are like blinking out, maybe my internet connection's not good, let me know. So here is the envelope and here is the card. So this is a pop-up card and that's the inside. So I made another one, but I don't know what I did with it. It's probably on this table somewhere where everything is at. So let's get started. I'm going to go ahead. I've done a lot of die cutting ahead of time, but we're going to get started here. Okay. So have all the measurements on my blog tomorrow. So like I said, this is a ton of stuff. So we're using Enjoy the Journey DSP. I've got some Evening Evergreen. I've got the window sheets. I've got this frame from the Stitched Frames set. Is that what that's called? That's not right. The Fabulous Frame die set. And you could go ahead and use that, but I did find that it did work out better if you had a smaller one on the inside. So let's get some things organized first. And the first thing I think we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of ink to this frame. So what I did was I just added a little bit of ink, as you can see, to kind of distress that frame and make it look a little more vintagey, maybe not so clean cut. Sometimes our stamp sets and dies are just so perfect that you need to ink them and grub them up. So what I'm doing is I'm just taking a sponge dauber and I'm using Basic Gray, and this is a piece of smoky slate, I believe. So I used the lighter gray, but I'm using the darker gray ink. And I'm just running it along this. I hope you guys had a fantastic day. My husband and I did. Baby boy headed up north to do some wrestling with some friends, so we took the opportunity to run down to Jeff City. That's a small or a town about 45 minutes from here. We met our daughter who's in college, had lunch with her, went to Target, spent the afternoon together. So I feel super refreshed. Got to spend the day with my baby girl. And that always puts me in a really good mood. And the weather here, oh, you guys, it was in the 60s. The sun was shining. I was soaking up some vitamin D. Normally Sundays are spent all day in my craft room getting ready for the week. So we'll see how the week goes. It is the capital of Missouri. Yep. All right, so you can see all I've done is just kind of given this frame kind of a little more of a vintage look, which I think looks really good with the antique looking lantern. All right, so we're gonna do that. Now I have a piece of, this is 7, I believe it's 7 1/4 by 5 1/2. So a little bit larger than, oh, yes, I didn't know you were down from Jefferson City, Sonia. It was a beautiful day. We went out to lunch at Big Whiskey's. It was awesome. And then spent several hours at Target. Okay, so this is on the 7 1/4 inch side. I have scorings at 1/2 inch, 1 inch, and then 1 1/2 inch. And then I flipped it around and did the same thing. So we're going to create an accordion fold here. All right, and I'm just going to burnish it really well. And then create this nice crease. Now this is definitely going to be the one, if you watch me normally, you know that any card that I make is going to definitely need extra postage. It's going to be a super thick card. But if you do these burnishes really deep, and you can tell that I'm really kind of pressing it down and making that good crease. And so this is what creates your pop-up mechanism. So you see, just all right, so I made one without vellum, and then I made one with vellum. And I think the vellum makes it a little more fun because you can do multiple layers. I don't know if you can tell, but that firefly is on top. And then I have some on the bottom. So definitely different layers there. So there's a couple of different ways you can adhere this vellum, but what I did was I used this tear-in tape. And the reason that I did that is because I feel like sometimes with liquid glue and vellum, it gets a little messy. It slides around a little bit too much. And then you've got a mess going and you've got to try to clean it up. And I'm good with liquid glue, but I'm not great with liquid glue. It's still a learning factor for me. I get very heavy-handed. All right. So what I did was I just added tear-in tape. And so what you may be concerned about is maybe seeing the adhesive being exposed a little bit and then sticking to the pop-up. But I'm going to show you what to do with that. All right, so here's my vellum, or not vellum, it's a window sheet. And I'm just going to line it up and make sure that it's touching the tape. All right, so as I discussed, there's adhesive out here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my embossing buddy that you can get, and I'm just going to kind of pat it around here. So what that's going to do is that's going to bind up that adhesive, because the powder's going to stick to it. Then it won't stick to the card. All right, so just rubbing it right along the edge there. All right. So here's our mechanism. And now I'm going to do the same thing with my frame. I'm going to use the tear tape. You could use Stampin' Seal. That would be fine. You could use liquid glue if you're really good with it. But like I said, I'm not that great with it. So you Missouriers, what's the weather supposed to be like the rest of the week? I don't know. I just know that today was beautiful. I hope the cold isn't coming in, but I think it is. It's been a couple of days since I watched the weather. Things are winding down for us on wrestling season. Gavin had his last tournament yesterday. Last high school tournament. Until, I mean, there's districts and state, but like the last team tournament. So we had senior week this week. We had his last away duel. We had his last team tournament. So it was quite an emotional week here at the Carpenter house. Let me just tell you. Oh, is it cold in New Jersey? Mid-60s? Yes, it was awesome, Karen. I bet you enjoyed the weather too. Did you take the grandbabies out? All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to seal this frame, and I may have gotten it a little crooked. So I'm going to carefully pull this up because I didn't like really seal it down. I can do that. All right, let's try this again. Stop talking, started hearing. Here we go. I did it again. Maybe I should start at the bottom. Okay, here we go. Now I'm happy with that. Well, it's a little crooked, but it'll be fine. We've got a pretty one I can take pictures of. All right, so now let's bring out, this is the basically the card front that we're creating. So there's lots of layers to it. So I'm using a piece of the Enjoy the Journey. And I've got, see what I mean with my heavy hand? This is a new glue, bottle of glue. So it's really rough on me when I go from an old one that's almost empty to a new one. All right. So I'm just adhering this on a piece of gray granite cardstock. And the reason I picked gray granite is because it was right here on my desk. You're not going to see this except the back DSP. So that's why it doesn't matter what color you use. All right, now let's create our lantern. So what I have is I've cut a lantern out with the brushed brass cardstock and a piece of the evergreen. And so I'm going to take my paper snips and just kind of trim along the lines here because I don't want all of this green here. I want that brass to peek through just in certain elements. So I'm going to definitely cut off the arms. Did your dad or grandfather have one of these lanterns when you were growing up? I made one red because that was the color of my dad's, and then my grandfather's was green. So that's why I had to do one of each color. All right, so we're going to cut off the top of the lantern with my paper snips because we want to use that piece. And then I'm going to cut this piece off because that's my metal. Okay. And I'm going to put that over to the side because I want to use that as kind of a template. Okay. We're going to adhere this up with a little bit of liquid adhesive. And I sure do. Oh, there they are. Here we go. Now I'll keep my fingers from getting all gluey and gross using my snip or tweezers here. Okay, so I'm just gonna adhere this green part. Thanks, Mary. You have to have the brass in my opinion because it's gotta look authentic. Rosie, your husband has one. Is it green or is it red? And is it a Coleman? Because that's what my dad and grandpa had. All right, so we're gluing that on the top. All right, next we're gonna make the shield, I guess is what you'll call it. Okay, so I'm gonna take this and I'm just gonna loosely outline this vellum. And this is gonna give me just an easy little pattern to use, but it'll probably take more than that to cut and find the right measurements here. So I'm cutting it just inside the line, and now we're going to see how close I am. So we're going to put it on the bottom. Holy smokes. I'm just going to tear off a little bit of this corner, or trim off a little bit of this corner, and I think I'm going to call that good. The last one I made took forever and ever. All right, I have just a yellow, ooh, this is darker than I want. A yellow lantern, or yellow blend. This is Dark Daffodil Delight. And we're gonna stamp it with Mango Melody on the back side. I don't know if you'll be able to see it because that yellow is so dark. Oh, now we never have the stove. You guys are super fancy. That you are super fancy, Rosie. We never had the stove. All right. So you can see a little bit of that yellow that we popped through there. Okay. So now I'm going to take these tweezers and I am just going to put a little bit of liquid adhesive right here at the top and right here at the bottom for my vellum to go onto. There we go. So we'll just leave it back here to dry for just a minute, and then we'll put some other pieces together. So I have the body of one of the lightning bugs that I cut in Mango Melody, and then I cut the big piece out of Basic Black. So we'll take some liquid adhesive and put it on the back of that, and use my tweezers just to set it right where it needs to go. And you can move that body however you want it. So you've got a cute little firefly, lightning bug, whatever you all call them. The North people, is that what it is, Karen? I think my aunt and uncle had one. I'm not sure. I remember definitely seeing one as I was growing up. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my lantern, and I think I'm gonna use some Stampin' Dimensionals and pop it up just a scotch. And it doesn't take a lot of Stampin' Dimensionals on this, just like basically one at the top and one at the bottom. Now what I want to do is I want to place my frame where it's going to sit on my card front, because I don't want my pattern, my lantern to be too far down. So I'm going to take it and flip it over and kind of just eyeball where I need it. So right about there. Ooh. There's some strong dimensionals. They attached quick. All right, here we go. Now I cut out some blades of grass. And so on the other one, I use Evening Evergreen and Soft Succulent. On this one, I think I'm just going to use Soft Succulent blades because I've got the Evening Evergreen lantern. And so these, I was up here trying to find grass in all of my die cuts, and I finally found these in the Seaside Bay set. So that's why we had to use that one. It's just for the blades of grass. Because I feel like you need to have the whole seam there. I'm going to feed that under there. There we go. And then right here. All right. So this isn't taking much time at all. It is pretty quick. All right. Now I think the last thing we need for the front of the card is our little lightning bugs. Or little fireflies, whatever you want to call them. So we're going to put one about right there. And we'll put one up high on the other side. Okay, so this is the back. So because it's popping up, you can use more dimensionals. Oh, yes, 2 of the Green Lanterns, Rosie. Wow, how could you let that out? Okay, so once again, you can use Stampin' Seal. You could use liquid adhesive, but I'm going to use tear tape because I feel like you need a little bit of a stronger bond right here when you're creating this card, especially if it's going to go in the mail. Not only will it need that extra postage, you don't want to take a chance on it moving around. All right. More dimensionals. That's right, Mary. As many as you can get. All right. So this is the tricky part. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to line your corner up and not really set it down until you're lined up at the top. Okay. There we go. So you'll notice I only removed the tape from one side because you can always open it up and then shut it. And so you're going to want to do the same thing. You're going to meet at the corner and then press it down. And so there's your pop-up right there. This one's a little wonky. Okay. All right, now let's do the inside. We'll set that out of the way. I've just got to, ooh, no, I didn't put my critter on here. I think I'm going to put him down here on this one. Kind of like he's going towards the light. Because it always seems like there's bugs around those lights. All right, here we go. Now we'll set that aside so it can dry. All right, so toss that out of the way. I'm going to take some Smoky Slate ink. Actually, first, let's do the sentiment. That way I can work around it. So I decided to use Thanks for the Lighting the Way sentiment with Evening Evergreen. I'm just going to give that a quick stamp. There we go. Now we'll shut this so I don't get it all over the place. We're going to take some Smoky Slate. We're going to add a tail here because we want our fireflies flying around here. Just kind of flying around the sentiment. All right. I have some black ink that I'm going to use for the firefly. Just stamp it right there by the tail. And then to give that yellow glow, I'm going to pull out that Mango Melody and I feel like, there we go. Let's use the smaller one. Take that smaller stamp set and create that glow right there over. And that's coming from your bug. All right, we're just about done. Let's go ahead and stamp our firefly on the envelope while we're at it. It is a great masculine card. You are right. I agree. I think this is a really great card for anyone. You know, it brings out those vibes from when we were kids and out chasing fireflies. That's one of my favorite memories as a kid. We lived in a great neighborhood growing up. My dad still has the house. And there was always kids outside playing, chasing the lightning bugs. My grandparents lived next door for several years. So those are some great memories that I have. We camped a lot as a kid. So I think this card is absolutely perfect for anyone. Not just that man in your life. And it has a lot of inspirational quotes that I like. So this is a perfect set for perfect set for summer, I think. All right, and pairing it with the Enjoy Your Journey DSP is perfect. All right, we're going to give this a quick snip. Then we'll construct our card and we will be done. Oh, I needed to remind you, next week is Super Bowl. And our semi-hometown Chiefs are going to be in it. So I am going to do my Facebook Live, I think at 2 o'clock. So watch my Facebook page. But I think I'm going to do it at 2 so that we can enjoy the game. We've got chicken wings on order, so it's going to be a good time. All right, so here's the inside. I'm going to just use a little bit of a liquid adhesive. Less is more. And as I said earlier, all the dimensions are going to be on my blog tomorrow. I'm going to give this a nice burnish. And then I'm going to add this card base. And we'll use liquid adhesive this time. We'll use a little liquid adhesive. And that's going to go right like edge to edge. All right. So it pops down, fits right into your envelope. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. If you're interested in joining, is that a hockey game? Yeah, whatever, Mary. So thank you so much for joining me. I'll chat with you next week. Thanks for joining me again. Have a wonderful week.